Welcome to Marin Voices and Views. With Lawrence A. Strick, I'm Peter B. Collins. Today, we focus on homelessness in Marin County and the future of Ritter Center. Andrew Hening is the new coordinator for homeless issues for the city of San Rafael. Before taking this post, Andrew ran the Downtown Streets team in San Rafael and was also involved in a similar program in Palo Alto. Thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, good to be here.
And Byrnes is Executive Director of Ritter Center, located at 3rd and Ritter Streets in downtown San Rafael. She joined Ritter in 2008 and has served as a nurse practitioner and administrator of Ritter's Health Clinic. She was promoted to Executive Director 2 years ago. Once known as Ritter House, the center has been serving Marin's less advantaged since 1980. Sia, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me here.
Give us a little background. Ritter's mission is to serve low-income and homeless people, residents of Marin County. You have a staff of about 30, an annual budget of about $3.5 million, and about 41% of that funding is from government.
That's right.
Give us a sketch of the people you serve, the services they need, and what is the level of demand? Is it level or increasing?
The level of demand has grown in my 8 years there. When I first started in 2008, I was the 11th staff member. And the services have grown because the people actually really need the services that we offer. The city originally in the 90s gave Ritter Center some support money and asked them to take on the burden of providing day services for the homeless population. At the same time, Ritter Center was growing their food pantry, and that food pantry serves over 400 housed individuals and families who use the services of the food pantry to offset their rent, help give them a financial cushion so that they can use their money to stay out of homelessness. We also have expanded our case management department because there are people coming in every day, mothers with children who can't make the rent, who can't afford their dental services, who can't afford or don't know where to go to get medical care for themselves. So our clinic numbers have grown from seeing 20 people a day to seeing sometimes 40 people a day who drop in for services. Our food pantry services have grown, our case management services. The need has been so great as the economic crisis for the poor and the low income has grown.
So, in Marin, many of us are so fortunate to live in this bastion of wealth. Mm-hmm. And as you look around the county, sometimes I get nervous when people talk about Ritter House and who's using Ritter House, that somehow the demographic that you serve is not really identified or understood by a lot of the community. Who are these folks? Are they local? Are they veterans? Are they moms who are on the short side of spousal support? Are they women who have gotten into bad relationships and are getting abused? Can you give us a little bit of the understanding?
They are all of those. And the data that we have internally and the data that's been gathered externally tells us that 70 to 75% of the people we serve are born and raised or have lived here for some substantial amount of time. They're people who have fallen on hard times. They're people who have burnt out in their families, who've lost their jobs, who've come on hard times. They are people just like you and me.
Are they kids who are going to Kent Middle School? Are their parents?
You'd be shocked.
I mean, who are these people?
These are exactly the kids who go to every grammar school in the county. Mothers who've graduated from Terra Linda High School, from San Rafael High School. 80-year-old clients who live in Sausalito, who've grown up in Marin and retired in Sausalito and can no longer live on their fixed income with the rental increases. Those are the people we serve. We also serve a lot of homeless vets. We serve a lot of people who are fleeing domestic violence. And like Marin, we are seeing a steady increase in the aging population.
See, a direct question that will impact our discussion later. How do people get to Ritter Center? And if Ritter is moved to a location that's not near the transit hub, that could become an issue. So presently, how do people get there to avail themselves of your services?
Well, when I started looking for a place 2 years ago, I did a brief survey.
A place to relocate
Okay. Ritter Center. And interestingly, it turned out to be about a 25-25-25 split between people who walked, people who took the bus, people who were driven there by another person, so they didn't own their own car, and 25% of them came in their own vehicle. And recently we just are completing another survey for the city about that very thing. But I don't think the results will be that much different.
Andrew, what's your description of our homeless population, and how many of them present ongoing problems to people downtown, merchants, and the police department?
So according to the last homeless point in time count, which is done in the odd years, every other year, Marin has about 1,300 people that are homeless back in 2015 in January. Of that, about 45% were actually in San Rafael. And of that group, about 250 were actually unsheltered on the streets. The other half were sheltered or in programs. And so of that, I tend to kind of think about homeless folks falling into one of three buckets. I think about half of the homeless community is folks who, like Sia was saying, I mean, they had a job loss, a medical emergency, a divorce, something that really kind of led to a one-time episodic issue with homelessness. The next group, probably about 40% of the homeless community, is folks that have had some sort of ongoing issue from homelessness. So substance abuse, mental illness, a developmental disability. A lot of the folks, for example, that I worked with on Downtown Streets team had some sort of work-related injury that prevented them from actually being able to continue their job. So those folks, it can be more of a challenge to help them, but there is a path out. The last group, the last 10%, is really the folks that the community, I think, is very frustrated about. These are folks with serious mental illness, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and they also have severe addiction issues. So these are our chronic inebriates who basically from years of drinking and abusing their bodies can't control their bowel movements anymore. They're the folks that are passing out maybe in parks and on the street, and they're really throwing the community for a loop and getting people really upset and frustrated. But when you think about the overall, I mean, we really are talking about 30, 35, maybe 40 people in downtown.
So given the location of the Ritter Center, Sia, you're right in the middle of San Rafael. You're near the transportation hubs. You're near St. Anthony's Dining Center. How do you respond to the fact that some people think, well, naturally that's an attraction to downtown. They're attracted here, and that's making the problem more visible and even worse to those who have businesses here who are concerned about their economic well-being?
So my first response would be that just like you or I are attracted to downtown, so are people who are chronically homeless. They want to go someplace to do something. Ritter Center happens to offer services that they need. But also bear in mind, Ritter Center has been there for many years and is now surrounded by a pawn shop, a liquor store, and a Walgreens that sells alcohol 24/7. I don't see Ritter Center as the source of the problem. I really don't. What we do is we give people a place to be, a way to be clean, a way to get back their self-esteem, some help getting into housing or into some sort of shelter, and the medical care that really keeps them off the street. We work very closely with the police to sort of work together to help get those chronic inebriates off the street and into some sort of treatment. But I don't think Ritter Center is the magnet. People don't come to San Rafael to take a shower at the Ritter Center.
Let me ask you, because I'm actually unaware of this, and forgive me for stepping on you here, Peter, but what occurs in Ritter House on a daily basis? Do people stop in and have a shower and a meal and leave?
We don't feed them.
Okay.
We distribute food through the food pantry, but there are a whole host of people who are living in their car or living in some sort of supported housing who really don't have a community, and sometimes they just come and sit, and they know that they're being taken care of and they're being, somebody's looking out for them.
So it's safe.
It's safe. It's a safe place to be. And over the past several years, we've gotten very vigorous about our behavior standards, and I think the tenor, there was a very bad era, but I think the tenor of the street has completely changed. We have a security guard. the clients who come there spend a lot of time and effort cleaning up the grounds. We've cleaned up the park, and that's right on the corner. So people come for both community and for services.
So, Andrew, do you think that Ritter is a magnet? And do you think that residents and merchants are reaching the limits of tolerance and patience in San Rafael?
Well, to answer the second part first, I do think that our community members are sort of reaching what I've kind of termed as a compassion fatigue threshold. I think we live in one of the most compassionate communities, not only in the Bay Area, but in the country. And yet at the same time, not only does it seem this way, but I mean, the numbers can kind of bear this out. The problem has been getting worse over time. And it's driven by a lot of factors that aren't unique to Marin. Affordable housing is a crisis throughout California. The economic downturn, a lot of folks didn't recover. Obviously, issues around living wages. So these are really sort of, universals or statewide issues that are affecting the homeless community. And I think to the public, again, going back to your previous question, when they see someone downtown who's intoxicated or talking to themselves, and they see the same person over and over and over again, yeah, it gets frustrating. And honestly, it gets frustrating for service providers as well, because these are folks that it is very challenging to help them. Mm-hmm. In terms of Ritter specifically, I think from the city's point of view, when Ritter Center started, as Sia mentioned, in 1981, I mean, it was just the Victorian house. And over time, as this problem has gotten worse, the city has supported Ritter's growth and trying to help more people. I think right now we've just reached a point where, the city is we're receiving a lot of feedback from the community, both on one hand saying that the services are critical and we need to make sure people get the help. But at the same time, I think there are concerns about the context of where those services are being provided, especially as services have grown over time. So I think, the conversation has tended towards these extremes where it's like, well, let's provide more services downtown, whatever the impact, or let's kick Ritter out of town. And so I think the reality and where we're really trying to take the partnership and relationship now is that I really think that we can have both a service system where we're helping people get out of homelessness, but I think we can also find ways to do it that the community feels like they're not being overly impacted by the issue.
Andrew, a lot of people argue or say that Mayor Phillips is clear. He wants Ritter House out of downtown, and he'd like Ritter Center out of downtown ASAP. You were hired earlier this year. What's your job description, and what kind of marching orders have you been given?
Well, certainly working with Ritter is at the top of my priority list, that's for sure. And so it's great that I was already working here. I had a relationship with Sia and a lot of the staff at the Ritter Center. So that's been a great way to jumpstart things. In terms of the relocation, I mean, again, I think the criteria when I first started was we're just looking for locations that are not downtown and they're not in a residential area. And so that's sort of developed and morphed since I started. But I mean, for me, I think in the bigger picture, when I was working in Palo Alto, they do have a multi-service center down there that's actually sort of combines what St. Vincent's is and what Ritter is, as well as some of the other providers. And Downtown Street Scene was based out of that center. So it's an interesting situation because to have a multi-service center with centralized services, it really is the best practice. The issue for us now, I think, is that though we have some centralized services, at Ritter and other providers, they're still a bit fragmented in our downtown. And I actually think that that's partly what drives a lot of the issues that we see in downtown as people are, kind of traveling among the different providers. So I really do believe, having seen in another community where they were able to have one multi-service center that had that safe space, that had a dignified area for people to be, that had robust services, they really did because they had a similar issue in downtown when this center, the Opportunity Center, was created. They were really able to get a lot of the folks that were in downtown to the Opportunity Center, getting services, ending their homelessness, and they did it in a way where their neighbors weren't really impacted negatively by those services being there.
So Andrew, if Ritter is moved out of downtown San Rafael, do you believe it will reduce this alleged magnet drawing homeless people to downtown? Or do you think that people will continue to hang out and create issues?
Well, I mean, again, using the Palo Alto example, I mean, it's my understanding that 80 to 90% of the folks that were in downtown shifted when the Opportunity Center was built. So there are always going to be some people that are going to stay downtown. As Sia mentioned, I mean, people that are homeless are just like you and me. I mean, they want community, they want activity in their life. I mean, so that's why you are going to continue to see, I mean, at any point, at least some folks in downtown still. So it's not like this is just a magic wand that you can make the problem disappear. But in terms of attracting folks, I mean, I think what's amazing, and again, thinking about Palo Alto, is that when you look at their point in time count numbers, by doing the multi-service center, they actually had a huge decrease in the number of people that were homeless in their community. I'm talking like 50% decrease. So I really do believe that with the right service mix, other communities have demonstrated that you really can reduce the number of homeless folks that are in your community.
What is a service center? Can you describe that for me? I mean, what does that encompass?
So a service center, I mean, it's sort of similar to what Ritter is now. I mean, there's case management services, so social workers that work with people. There's health services. There's food on site. There's job training and computers. Wi-Fi for people to email employers or be able to connect with people. So it really is this idea that a lot of homeless people spend so much time going between different organizations that they're actually not able to really make substantial progress. So if you're able to streamline all of those services in one place, you can actually have faster, more rapid outcomes.
Is the city prepared to contribute financially to a service center greater than the contribution they're making now, if at all, to Ritter?
Well, the way that the city has been looking at this issue is that we really see the County Marin as a key partner in this. Okay. So I think, the city, the only major service provider that the city contracts with is Downtown Streets Team. And even for that contract, we're trying to work with the Streets Team to move towards more of a privately funded model moving forward. So it's more sustainable for them. So I really think the County Marin can play a huge role in this. As well as, I mean, again, we live in a very affluent community. We're very fortunate to be here. So I think, again, public-private dollars towards a solution like this is really the way to go.
One second, Peter. Is the county and the city on the same page on that, or have you noticed tension between them?
Well, my sense is that, I mean, I've only been working here in Marin for about 3 years, but I really do feel like the partnership between the city and the county is really better than ever, to be honest. I think we have regular meetings throughout the month. Our city manager is meeting with Matthew Heimel, the county administrator. I'm meeting with my counterpart, Ashley Hart-McIntyre, the homeless analyst, as well as other health and human services staff. We've got something called the HOT team going, where we're working with the county as well as other organizations like St. Vincent's and Homeward Bound. So really, it does feel to me like we're kind of turning a page in the collaborative nature of this work. And really, the more collaboration that we have with the county, the better things are going to be.
Any of the big employers like Marin, who's right over there, helping out?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, not yet.
Just had to ask.
We hope so.
Yeah.
Sorry, Peter.
Now, my clear impression is that you've gotten the message and you have been exploring alternative sites for Ritter Center.
Yes.
Many of us thought that Marin Square at Bellum and Anderson might be a good potential, but Sutter has bought that and they don't seem to be willing to cooperate or collaborate. Mm-hmm. So there is now a site identified, 2 industrial buildings in the Northgate Industrial Park. Mm-hmm. This is south of Smith Branch Road, east of the 101 freeway. And there are 2 buildings on Mark Drive. Do I have that?
It's one building.
One building?
One address.
Okay.
And it's a building that has been for sale for 6 years. Mm-hmm. And our realtor said, I know it's larger than you need. We only need about 7,000 square feet. And this is a 20,000 square foot building. But when I saw the building, it was both inspirational and aspirational. It was something I thought, wow, this could be a place. While it's not the most ideal location, it is the most ideal building. It has huge potential to house all the kinds of services that people who are low income and poor and homeless and struggling need.
And in addition to Ritter, a shelter is envisioned there so that the REST program could be rolled into that? Is that the idea?
That's one of the ideas. So we're very early in the planning process. But what this building did was sort of catapult the issue away from relocating just Ritter to thinking about this as a community. What do we really want to do as a community to provide services for people who need them? Mm-hmm. And that's what this building presented, an opportunity to do that.
And so what is next? How do we explore this? Do you do environmental impact? Do you have to contact all the neighbors? It's complicated.
It's really complicated. And it's, there are already people who are upset and concerned and fearful. And we haven't even gotten into the planning, the middle of the planning process with the county and with St. Vincent's to define what services are going to be there. We've been talking in very general, how many square feet would you use if you moved in here? What kind of services could we bring that would be compatible? So the list of potential tenants is not even final. We've talked about a number of different agencies who might do compatible things that could take up the additional square footage that's there. But right now, the three key partners are the county and St. Vincent's and Ritter Center. And the county would fund a low barrier shelter similar to the REST program. So REST stands for Rotating Emergency Shelter.
Which is now primarily in the faith community.
Right.
Okay.
Well, Marin Organizing
Committee
provides evening meals, and they feel that that is hugely important to their parishioners and to their congregations to be able to continue that role. But the actual operations of the low barrier shelter would be run by perhaps St. Vincent's. Or the county could put out an RFP and find somebody else.
Well, there does seem to be a little bit of a tension here. You're talking about a very comprehensive, significant project that's going to have to get approval from not one but a variety of folks with different needs and different political opinions on one hand. On the other hand, you've got some urgency being discussed by the city about wanting Ritter Center to be moved and or changed or go away. What do we do with this conflict and with this time frame? I mean, you're talking, to me, sounds like not months, not year, but years, and you're talking about let's do something now. What are we doing to be collaborative here?
So we are collaborating. And it's really getting all of us, the city, the county, and the potential partners of the building, to plan this out together and to have some political will to move a bigger community idea forward. That's really what this has become about. And if we can't do that, then Ritter Center is really back to square one, looking for a place to relocate. And we all know, sort of the evidence tells us this is the worst idea, to sort of segregate Ritter Center services from the other services. It's really inefficient, more expensive, and it doesn't result in people getting the services that they need.
I asked you earlier about how people get to Ritter Center currently. So if you're up in Northgate area, that's not easy to access by walking or transit. So what are the transit or the shuttle plans if you were to locate there?
So bear in mind, this is early in the process, but there is a bus that goes out to the county building that does the Medi-Cal enrollments, the Health and Human Services building out on Smith Ranch Road. And the reason that bus exists is because the county used to fund a shuttle that went from downtown San Rafael to that very area. And they did it for 2 years. And then they gave the Golden Gate Transit District all of the data and said, you need a line that goes out to this area. And I think the county anticipates doing a similar thing, that they would fund a shuttle, we would see what the utilization patterns were, and then perhaps adjust our Golden Gate Transit lines.
Andrew, what do you see as the biggest obstacles to overcome here?
Well, to me, so far in this, the city's role is basically, it's kind of interesting with my new position. We're sort of viewing this as, just like a private developer would come forward to community development and propose a building site. I mean, community development would definitely be involved in this project as well. Part of my role is actually adding sort of an extra level of feedback into what sort of considerations the applicants should be looking at. And so you've actually hit on one of the major ones, transportation. So that's definitely something that I've been communicating back to Ritter and the other applicants, is that, whatever proposal you put forward, you really need to consider how people are going to get there, and what is their day going to be like when they get there, and what happens when they want to leave. I think probably the number one thing that I'm be most curious to see how the applicants are going to work it out is just the governance piece. I think right now there's a very high level of collaboration among the different agencies. But this is really, I mean, this isn't just, collaborating, referring people to different programs. It's really being in the same building and working together. And, so I think from the city's point of view, we just want to see how that's going to gel, because I think that's going to be key to making sure that this is a well-run place.
Yeah, you need people to put their money where their mouth is, it sounds to me. Is that facility in San Rafael?
It is in San Rafael.
Okay, so it remains in the city.
Yeah.
So that's helpful, I would think.
It's a light industrial area.
Right.
And how do you see this being funded? Obviously, you're going to have capital costs and moving costs.
Absolutely. And so how this started is that our realtor found an investor who was interested in buying the building, not donating, but for a very small return on his money. So he needs long-term clients. He's doing it actually to give back and to help out. He wants long-term clients who will be in the building and who will do some good. And the building hasn't even been bought yet. There hasn't been an offer made. And that offer can't happen until the tenants come together with a plan for how everything is going to work and how it will be funded. The county will kick in money. We have enough money to make some tenant improvements. These are all the details that need to be worked out. But I think in our early meetings, it was clear that the financing was the least of our problems right now.
Is Marin Community Foundation somehow involved in this? Or
They're not now, but they may become.
Right.
We may go to
so.
them and ask.
Yeah.
And with just about 30 seconds remaining to each of you, is there a plan B if Mark Drive doesn't work out? Andrew, have you sussed out any other possible sites?
Well, we're still definitely looking for sites. I mean, I think the one that you mentioned at the beginning of the questions, I mean, Marin Square, I think there's a lot of community sentiment that'd be a great property. So maybe with a wider collaboration among different agencies, maybe that could still be on the table. I'm not sure.
All right.
But
Sia, any other?
That would be really the ideal. I think there's community consensus that piece of property is the ideal location. But continuing to look, I've looked at 22 properties in 2 years. I just have to keep looking.
Sia Byrnes from Ritter Center, Andrew Hening, City of San Rafael. Thank you both for being with us today.
Thanks for
so
having
much.
us.